It's terrible that after 50 years, it is behind closed doors.
A royal transfer can happen without trumpets, cameras, or balcony waves. But sometimes, the quietest decision lands like thunder. Behind closed palace doors, the Queen Mother's diamond necklace was moved from private royal custody into Catherine's care. And in that single act, Camilla was left outside a circle she believed she had finally entered. It was not just jewelry, it was judgment. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles sat at the polished table, with the formal record open before him, his fingers resting near the lower edge of the page, as though even touching it too firmly might awaken something dangerous. The Queen Mother's diamond necklace, a historic royal jewel once linked to royal memory, family rank, and the quiet language of power, had been quietly transferred from private royal custody into the care of Catherine, Princess of Wales. Private royal custody meant the controlled keeping of important family treasures by the household, away from public display and under strict internal approval. This was not a casual handover. This was a decision wrapped in history, sealed by authority, and sharpened by exclusion. The king knew exactly what the words meant. Catherine had been chosen, Camilla had not. Catherine received the news without triumph. She stood still, her face calm but changed, as if the weight of the necklace had reached her before the velvet case ever did. The princess understood why it mattered. This was not only an heirloom, not only diamonds passed from one generation to another. It was trust made visible. It placed her closer to the future image of queenship, closer to the emotional line that connected the monarchy's past to what Britain would one day be asked to accept. Charles watched her silence and saw no hunger in it. He saw burden, and that made the choice feel even more final. Camilla learned later, away from the meeting, and that delay wounded her more than the decision itself. The queen consort held her composure at first, but only for a moment. Her expression tightened, then broke just enough for the aide beside her to look down. She asked one question, and the room seemed to shrink around it. Who authorized the transfer? No one rushed to answer. That silence told her the truth before any name did. A senior aide confirmed the arrangement had been prepared for weeks, hidden beneath routine inventory language. So few within the household understood what was moving. The aide spoke carefully, but Charles did not look relieved. He closed the folder slowly, as if shutting it could contain the hurt now spreading through the palace. The monarch had made a choice, yet he did not celebrate it, because the first question was already burning through every private corridor. Why was Catherine chosen? And why was Camilla left outside so carefully? But before the necklace could speak for the monarchy, the people around it had to face what it revealed about their own place inside the crown. The necklace did not belong to one moment. It carried the shadow of the Queen Mother, the memory of Elizabeth, the burden of Camilla, and the rising destiny of Catherine. To the public, it glittered. Inside the palace, it cut. Because every diamond in that necklace seemed to ask the same brutal question. Who truly represented the future of the monarchy now? Catherine stood at the edge of a role she had never chased, yet could no longer step away from. The necklace had placed her in a new kind of silence, one heavier than applause and sharper than criticism. She understood what people would see when the jewel finally became public. They would not see a simple gift, they would see a sign. The Princess of Wales, a title given to the wife of the heir to the throne, already carried future meaning because it pointed toward the next reign. Now that meaning had been strengthened by diamonds, once linked to royal motherhood, restraint, and memory. Camilla felt that meaning immediately, and it struck her where no public insult ever could. The queen consort had spent years standing beside Charles, years absorbing judgment, years waiting for the monarchy to fully open its doors to her. She believed endurance had earned her acceptance within royal symbolism, the quiet language of crowns, jewels, titles, and ceremonies. that tells the world who belongs at the center. Yet this transfer told a different story. It suggested that presence was not the same as trust. It suggested that being beside the king did not mean holding the emotional future of the crown. William watched the timing with careful eyes. The prince knew palace decisions were rarely accidental, especially when they involved historic jewels and future roles. He studied the order of events, the silence around the handover, and the way Charles refused to explain everything at once. The future king understood what Catherine was too modest to say aloud. This necklace could strengthen her place before another shift came, before another public test, before the monarchy needed a figure who felt steady enough to carry old history without reopening old wounds. Charles made the silence worse by trying to control it. The king did not give Camilla the full reasoning immediately, and that pause became more painful than an argument. She asked again why Catherine had been chosen so directly, and he answered around the wound rather than through it. That was when the first fracture showed. The queen consort did not shout. She simply asked to see the transfer record herself. The request changed the room. Catherine had been chosen, Camilla had been sidelined, William had seen the deeper pattern, and Charles had delayed the truth. The necklace was no longer only a royal heirloom. It had become a test of loyalty, a measure of trust, and a warning that the palace had already begun preparing for something bigger. Yet the true reason behind the transfer was not born in that meeting room it began with. One earlier moment, nobody inside the palace could forget. Every palace storm has a first crack. This one began weeks earlier, during a private remembrance ceremony for the Queen Mother. When Catherine stood quietly beside the family archive table, and Camilla made a remark that froze the room. No shouting followed. No announcement was made, but from that moment, the necklace stopped being an ornament and became a verdict waiting to be delivered. Catherine did not answer when the words landed. She simply held her silence, and that silence carried more force than anger. The private remembrance ceremony, a small family event held to honor the Queen Mother's memory and legacy, had been meant to unite the room around duty, not divide it. Yet Camilla looked toward the archive table and questioned whether Catherine was truly ready to carry certain historic royal pieces. The queen consort did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The sentence was calm, but the meaning was sharp. Catherine's place was still being measured. Charles heard it. William heard it too. The king looked down for a moment, as though he wanted the remark to disappear before it reached everyone else, but it already had. The prince noticed Catherine's face tighten, not with weakness, but with restraint. She had carried public pressure, family tension, and future expectation without asking for sympathy. Now she was being quietly challenged in the one place where dignity was supposed to matter most. The monarchy could survive loud scandal, but these smaller cuts, made in private, often left deeper marks. A long-time royal archivist understood the damage before anyone named it. The archivist, a senior keeper of family records and historic objects, knew that royal jewels were never only decorations. They were signals. They told courtiers, families, and nations who had been trusted with memory. Later, in a documented account prepared for the household record, the archivist revealed that the Queen Mother's necklace had long been marked for a future queen figure, but the final name had remained unsigned. That missing name had once protected peace. Now it demanded a decision. William did not let the moment fade. The prince later told Charles in a private conversation that Catherine should never be forced to prove her dignity after years of service. He spoke carefully, but the emotion was clear. The future king believed she had already earned trust through steadiness, sacrifice, and silence. Charles listened without interrupting. The monarch knew his son was not asking for revenge. He was asking for recognition. Charles acted before mourning. He privately requested the sealed jewelry recommendation file, a restricted palace document used to guide decisions about important royal pieces. and asked that it be brought to him before anyone else could soften the meaning of what had happened. The king did not say Camilla's remark had decided everything. He did not have to. That single sentence had pushed the palace from hesitation into action. When the hidden reason finally reached her ears, Camilla did not ask for sympathy. She asked for a confrontation. There are arguments in palaces that never become loud, because the walls have heard too much history to need raised voices. Camilla entered the private sitting room with her shoulders stiff, her face composed, and her hurt barely contained. Charles was waiting near the fireplace, but Catherine's name was already in the room between them, bright and dangerous as the diamonds themselves. Camilla did not waste a word. She had confirmed that Catherine was named in the necklace transfer record, and now the queen consort wanted the truth from the only person who could give it. The transfer record, a formal palace note showing who receives custody of a royal item, had made the decision impossible to deny. Charles told her the choice followed heritage guidance, future role planning, and the symbolic line between memory and succession. Heritage guidance meant advice from palace experts about where historic family objects should go, so they protect royal tradition instead of damaging it. But explanations did not soften the wound. They only made it sound planned. Camilla stared at him as if every careful phrase had pushed her farther outside the room. She told Charles the silence had humiliated her, not because the necklace was beautiful, but because nobody thought she deserved to be told before Catherine was chosen. The queen consort said it made her look temporary inside her own household, like a woman allowed to stand beside the king, but not trusted with the emotional history behind him. Charles tried to answer gently, yet gentleness only deepened the insult. She did not want comfort. She wanted acknowledgement. Charles felt the pull from both sides. He cared for Camilla, and he could see the hurt breaking through her control. But the king also understood what Catherine represented in a country watching the monarchy for steadiness, innocence, and future hope. The necklace was tied to memory, but it was also tied to succession. The line of people expected to inherit the throne and carry the institution forward. Charles knew the crown sometimes demanded choices that hurt the family in order to protect the image of the monarchy. That truth sat between them like a locked door. Camilla asked the question he feared most. Did her remark at the Queen Mother's remembrance ceremony influence the decision? Charles did not answer quickly enough. That pause did what no confession could have done more clearly. The Queen Consort saw it at once. The transfer was not only about Catherine's future. It was also about Camilla's doubt, spoken at the wrong time, in front of the wrong people, against the wrong woman. The room turned cold. Camilla looked at Charles, and for the first time, her anger looked less like pride and more like heartbreak. She understood now that the palace had heard her, judged her, and moved without her. Charles began to explain that one moment had not decided everything, but she had already stepped away from the conversation. The queen consort left before he finished speaking. The closed door changed everything. Palace staff nearby did not need to hear the words to sense what had happened. Camilla had entered wounded and left exposed. Charles had tried to defend duty and lost peace. Catherine's name had become the center of a confrontation she had not asked for. And somewhere beyond that room, the necklace was no longer a treasure. It was proof. But the decision was not Charles's emotion alone. Behind it stood a quieter force, with the authority to turn sentiment into royal reality. Power in the monarchy rarely announces itself. It moves through signatures, sealed boxes, inventory phrases, and the cold precision of tradition. Behind the necklace transfer stood a small circle of decision-makers who understood what the public would feel before the public knew anything at all. And at the center of that circle was Charles, holding the pen that would wound one woman and elevate another. Charles sat with the senior archivist and a private household advisor, knowing this was no ordinary approval. The archivist had brought the heritage file, and the advisor had prepared the final custody note. Heritage authority meant the palace's internal power to decide how historic royal objects should be protected, moved, or assigned when those objects carry family meaning. This mattered because the necklace was not just wealth. It belonged to a symbolic continuity line, a chain of meaning connecting the Queen Mother, Elizabeth, and the woman expected to represent the monarchy's next chapter. Charles hesitated before signing. The king remembered Camilla's years beside him, the public judgment she had survived, and the loyalty she believed had earned her a permanent place inside royal history. But he also remembered Catherine's quiet endurance, the pressure she carried without complaint, and the way the country looked to her for calm when the palace seemed divided. The monarch understood the cruelty of the choice. One woman would feel rejected, another would feel burdened, and the crown would move forward anyway. The senior archivist watched every pause. He saw Charles set the pen down once, then pick it up again. The archivist understood what that small movement meant. The king was not choosing between beauty and beauty. He was choosing between domestic peace and public stability. A private household advisor, the official who helps manage sensitive family decisions away from public view, kept silent because silence was safer than sympathy. Everyone in that room knew Camilla would hear the decision as a slight. Everyone knew Catherine would receive it as a responsibility. Then came the line that made the room feel colder. The file contained a note saying the necklace should be held by the woman most trusted to embody continuity without controversy. Charles read it once, then again. The phrase did not name Camilla, but it did not need to. Its meaning was sharp, controlled, and devastating. It quietly placed Catherine inside the future and left the queen consort outside the deeper emotional inheritance of the monarchy. Charles signed. The pen moved quickly once the decision was made, as if delay had become more dangerous than action. The archivist gathered the file, the advisor prepared the next instruction, and the king remained still for a moment after the ink dried. He had turned sentiment into royal reality. He had protected the image of the crown. He had also opened a wound inside his own home. The palace now had only one task left: contain the damage before it escaped the walls. But some decisions are too powerful to stay hidden, especially when they touch pride, memory, and the future all at once. And the fallout begins not with a public statement, but with Catherine receiving the necklace and realizing what it has cost everyone around her. Catherine did not smile when the necklace arrived. She understood too much. The velvet case may have carried diamonds, but it also carried hurt, rivalry, expectation, and the silent approval of a monarchy that rarely explains itself. In that private moment, she was not a triumphant figure taking possession. She was a woman, realizing that acceptance inside the crown often comes wrapped in someone else's pain. Catherine stood with William and the palace archivist, knowing the room had been stripped down to only the people who needed to witness the handover. The private handover, a controlled palace exchange where an important royal item is formally passed into another person's care, mattered because it made the decision official without making it public. The archivist opened the file and explained the necklace's connection to the Queen Mother, the woman whose name still carried the feeling of old royal strength, family loyalty, and quiet command. He then explained why its placement now mattered. The necklace was being tied to the future royal image, meaning the public face the monarchy wanted to build around steadiness, trust, and continuity. Catherine listened, but her first thought was not herself. She asked whether Camilla had been told. The question changed the air. The princess knew the queen consort would hear the transfer as more than a household decision. Camilla would hear it as proof that years beside Charles had not fully erased the distance between her and royal memory. Catherine felt honored, yes, but uneasy. She had gained something precious, and yet the gain carried another woman's humiliation inside it. William stepped closer in tone, not in comfort alone, but in certainty. The prince told Catherine she had not taken anything. The crown had placed responsibility on her because she had earned trust through years of pressure, loyalty, and restraint. He reminded her that royal symbols were never given only to reward someone. They were given when the institution needed a person to carry meaning without breaking under it. Catherine heard him, but the burden remained. She did not want victory if victory looked like Camilla standing outside the door. Then Catherine noticed the handwritten notation. Near the lower edge of the file, someone had written, "Future public continuity." The phrase was small, but its meaning was enormous. Public continuity meant the steady image of the monarchy shown to the nation, especially during change or uncertainty. William saw the words and understood before anyone said it aloud. The necklace might not stay hidden. It could appear at an upcoming royal event, turning private tension into public symbolism. Catherine closed the velvet case gently. The sound was soft, but it felt final. The archivist lowered his eyes. William said nothing for a moment, and the princess understood that the diamonds had already begun speaking for her. Before evening, Camilla heard about the handover, and once she did, the wound moved from silence into reality. By nightfall, the necklace was no longer only a private inheritance. It had become a line drawn through the family. The most important conversation did not happen before advisors, courtiers, or legal files. It happened in a quiet room with no witnesses, where Catherine and Camilla finally faced the truth neither woman could avoid. One had been chosen, one had been passed over, and between them sat a necklace that neither had asked to become a weapon, yet both understood had changed everything. Catherine asked for the meeting because silence had become too dangerous. The princess knew the necklace could turn into a personal war if she allowed distance to do the speaking for her. A private conversation, meaning a direct exchange with no aides, no official record, and no palace buffer, mattered because it forced both women to speak as people before they spoke as royal figures. Catherine wanted Camilla to hear the truth from her own mouth. She had not chased the transfer. She had not asked Charles for the necklace. She had not wanted another woman's hurt placed inside her own honor. Camilla arrived guarded. The queen consort had already convinced herself that Catherine had become the palace's preferred symbol, the woman chosen to carry the future while she was left with the pain of being useful but not fully trusted. She looked at Catherine with controlled sadness, but beneath that sadness was anger. The necklace had touched an old wound. It reminded her that history had never completely opened its arms to her. No matter how long she stood beside Charles, no matter how many duties she performed, no matter how carefully she carried the crown's expectations. Catherine spoke first, and she spoke plainly. She told Camilla she understood why the exclusion hurt. She understood that this was not only about jewels. The princess said royal symbolism, the hidden language of objects, titles, and ceremonies, could wound people more deeply than open criticism because it showed who the institution trusted without ever saying it aloud. Camilla listened, and for the first time that day, her face softened. The queen consort admitted the pain was not in the diamonds themselves. The pain was in feeling that royal history still kept her at arm's length. Catherine then revealed something Camilla had not expected. In a private conversation with William, she had considered refusing the necklace. The prince warned her that rejection would insult the Queen Mother's legacy and Charles's decision. He told her the transfer was bigger than personal comfort. It was about duty, memory, and the future shape of the monarchy. Catherine said those words had stayed with her, because accepting the necklace did not feel like winning. It felt like stepping into a storm with no way back. Camilla finally understood. Catherine was not celebrating her sidelining. She was carrying a burden that would define her future. The queen consort saw the difference, and though it did not erase the hurt, it changed the nature of it. The conversation did not restore warmth. It did not create forgiveness in a single breath, but it created a fragile truce, quiet and uneasy, before the world discovered what had happened. That fragile truce would be tested the moment the story left the palace, and Britain saw the diamonds as more than diamonds. By morning, the private palace decision had become a national conversation. The necklace that moved quietly through royal custody now blazed across Britain's imagination. Some saw Catherine as the future made visible. Others saw Camilla's exclusion as a wound reopened in public. But one image captured it all: a newspaper front page showing the diamonds beside two words that struck like a bell: Catherine chosen. Catherine saw the headline before she heard the first broadcast. She stood with William, silent as the story spread faster than any palace aide could contain it. The newspaper front page showed a large image of the Queen Mother's diamond necklace beside the words, Catherine chosen, and the message was impossible to soften. A front page, the main cover of a newspaper where editors placed the biggest story of the day, mattered because it turned a private transfer into public judgment. The princess had accepted a duty inside the palace, but now the nation was reading it as a coronation of trust. William watched Catherine's face change. The prince knew she had never wanted the necklace to become a weapon against Camilla, but the public had already chosen its meaning. Broadcasters described the transfer as a defining symbol of royal continuity, the idea that the monarchy survives by passing trust, duty, and public confidence from one generation to the next. That mattered because the crown needed a steady future image, and Catherine had become that image before she could prepare herself. William told her the reaction was not her fault, but she did not look comforted. She looked unsettled by how quickly responsibility had turned into spectacle. Camilla heard the same coverage after the morning briefing, and every sentence seemed to push her farther from the center. The Queen Consort sat alone for a few moments, while commentators discussed her as the woman who had been bypassed, not as the woman beside Charles. That distinction cut deeply. It reduced years of service into one cruel contrast: Catherine chosen, Camilla sidelined. She had survived public hostility before, but this was different. This felt like history itself had leaned away from her. Palace aides chose silence. They did not deny the transfer, did not soften the headline, and did not issue a correction. That silence became its own confirmation. Near Buckingham Palace, a small crowd gathered as the story moved from newspapers to phones to television screens. One woman told a broadcaster, in a recorded street interview, that the necklace looks like it found its future. The phrase caught fire because it was simple, sharp, and impossible to forget. Charles understood what that phrase meant the moment it reached him. The king knew public feeling had settled the symbolic battle more quickly than any private explanation ever could. Catherine had become the emotional center of the story. Camilla had become the wound inside it. William saw the pressure rising around his wife, and the prince knew the next test would not come from the public. It would come from within the family. When the noise outside finally faded, the monarchy was left with the quiet truth of what the necklace had revealed. In the end, the Queen Mother's diamond necklace did not simply move from one place to another. It clarified the monarchy's heart. Catherine did not emerge as a conqueror. Camilla did not vanish as a villain. Charles did not escape the pain of choosing. But the decision gave Britain a final answer. The future would be carried by the woman who made duty look steady, even when it hurt. Catherine kept the necklace not as decoration, but as responsibility. The princess understood that royal continuity, meaning the steady passing of trust, symbols, and public confidence from one generation to the next, had now been placed around her future before it ever touched her neck. This mattered because the monarchy needed a face of calm after years of strain, and Catherine had become that face through silence, service, and restraint. She stood privately with William and admitted the truth she had carried since the handover. She felt the weight of every woman who had worn, guarded, wanted, or been denied such symbols. The prince listened carefully, and he knew she was not afraid of diamonds. She was afraid of what they now demanded. Charles accepted the cost of his choice. The king knew Camilla had been wounded, and he knew the hurt could not be repaired by careful words or palace silence. But he also believed the crown needed clarity more than comfort. The crown, the plain word for the monarchy as an institution beyond one person, had to protect its future image even when family feelings suffered. Charles had chosen the woman who represented public steadiness, not the path that would make his own household peaceful. That decision made him look firm to the nation and lonely inside his own walls. Camilla came to understand the limit of what history would give her. The queen consort did not lose her place beside Charles, and she did not disappear from royal life. But the necklace revealed something painful and final. It showed that acceptance could be official without being complete. It showed that years of endurance could earn a role, yet still not unlock every chamber of royal memory. She had been sidelined from the necklace, not erased from the monarchy. But the distinction did not remove the sting. It only made the truth sharper. The hidden phrase from the file remained the unspoken verdict: continuity without controversy. Catherine had never asked to become that phrase, but the palace had placed it upon her. Camilla had never expected to be excluded by it, but the words quietly explained why she had been. Charles did not reverse the transfer. The palace did not soften it, reframe it, or pretend it had been misunderstood. That silence proved the decision was intentional and final. The diamonds had spoken. Catherine was marked as the monarchy's emotional future, the woman trusted to carry memory forward without breaking its fragile power. Camilla remained a queen consort, still shadowed by unresolved history, respected but not fully embraced by every symbol she desired. And Charles stood as the king who chose legacy over peace. There is no unresolved ending here. The diamonds had spoken, the palace had chosen, and the monarchy had shown exactly where its future now rests. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.